The guy's just like a highlight reel, isn't he? Some of the shots he's making on the run, some tweeners, some ridiculous lobs, lovely little drop shots. As we said before, his game is, you know, pretty well rounded already for someone who's only 18.
If it's a two-pronged question, because what we need to talk about is not only players and their training habits, but we also need to talk about the scheduling of the tour, and the scheduling of the tour is something that's always been a little bit of a contentious issue.
Welcome back to the Getting a Grip tennis podcast. This time, instead of being thousands of miles apart, I think we're only tens of miles apart in the delights of Devon, although I think my internet connection's probably worse here than it is in Thailand, which is saying something, I suppose.
I think we're about 45 miles away from each other at the moment, Ben. Exeter to Plymouth.
Yep, lovely Devon. Grey Plymouth.
Oh yeah, grey buildings, grey sky.
Grey t-shirt as well.
Grey t-shirt. Oh, grey jumper. Oh, yeah. What are the chances? I'm not in Plymouth though.
Grey-ish walls as well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Okay, so yeah, what's going on in the tennis world this week? So we've got Miami Open continuing. We're coming to the conclusion of that. We've obviously got the women's final later today, and then the men's final tomorrow evening. So we're going to talk a little bit about that. We've got recent news about Daniel Medvedev having a hernia, so he's going to have an operation on that. We're going to talk generally about kind of injuries in tennis. We shall start off in Miami. I'm not going to do my rendition of Will Smith this week, especially given what's going on in the news.
I was going to say that's a topic unto itself, but not on the topic of tennis at all.
Yes, although I would say he did play quite a good role in the King Richard film, if anyone hasn't seen that.
Very much so, yeah, no, it's a worthwhile watch for anyone that is considering it. Like I say, to understand why some players are the greatest certainly does shed a good light on the road that it takes to get there, and how tough you've got to be to get there as well.
Yeah, so this isn't really a movie recommendation channel, but in that case, we can sort of talk a little bit.
It's not, but it's a tennis film, so let's say you're going to watch it.
And there aren't many of those. Anyway, yes, so Miami. What is going on in Miami? We've got Caraz taking on Casper Roode in next-gen battle. Although, yes, as we said last time, Caraz is 18, so he's definitely next generation. Casper Roode, I think, is 23, so he's sort of moving into that age where you expect them to just be consistent and challenging for these big titles. So yeah, obviously we're watching more of Caraz as the recent weeks have unfolded. He's becoming more of a household name already, given his excellent start to the year that he's had. Some incredible matches already this week. The guy's just like a highlight reel, isn't he? Some of the shots he's making on the run, some tweeners, some ridiculous lobs, lovely little drop shots. As we said before, his game is, you know, pretty well rounded already for someone who's only 18. So how do we think he's matching up against Casper Roode? I haven't seen much of Roode, so it's hard for me to comment, but I know he has beaten the likes of Bublik and Norrie and Zverev already in this tournament, so clearly he is a force to be reckoned with. How do you see this matchup going?
Yeah, it's an interesting one. I mean, I don't really have a comment on where it will go. If I was trying to bet sort of a little bit more of a guess, then I would probably go towards Caraz. Again, that form is a little bit too long term. We can see him really stepping up in terms of his competition and in terms of how he's challenging everyone on the tour. So he really is a next gen challenger for sure. As you were saying, like, you know, Casper Roode, he's 23, like he's in full swing of it, if you don't mind the pun. His career is under good progress, and he's had some good success already. But what we obviously need to see is, you know, if someone's going to be coming through from that era of next gen, the previous next geners as they really are now, we've got to see him start to take some titles, and I think that beating someone like Caraz is a good place to start with that.
Yeah, I mean, I was just checking his results in the lead. I think Caraz spent a bit more time on court. He's had quite a few
Yeah.
tough battles, even the ones that he's won in straight sets, like against Hernia in the previous round, like both going right to the wire in both sets. Whereas I think Casper Ruud, he's had a little bit more of a straightforward run. And he did have 3 sets against Zverev, so
that's match practice. That's match practice. Alcaraz has played these guys maybe once or twice at most in his time as a pro tennis player. Roode's been around for a little bit longer, so obviously he's going to have seen a little bit more and seen different players and how they like to play a little bit more. So, yeah, like I say, I think that, I'm not worried about the fact that Alcaraz spends longer on court, especially because of how young he is. He can certainly withstand the pressure.
Yeah, I think more pressure will be on Casper Ruud in this match, even though
big time.
He's still young, but relative to Alcaraz, he's a senior guy, and the pressure's on him now at this stage of his career to start converting some of these opportunities into tournament wins. Whereas Alcaraz everyone knows he's like a fantastic prospect, but right now there isn't massive pressure on him to win any of these tournaments. So I think that will be in his favour a little bit, and I think the crowds probably will be more on his side, judging by what I've seen in the matches in the lead up to this. I think he'll be the youngest winner of the Miami Open on the men's side.
Should he win?
And he's the youngest finalist there since Nadal, I think, in maybe it was 2005 or something.
It's an eerie prospect when you utter a record in the same sentence as Nadal. Specifically any of the top 4, but Nadal being a key one, especially as compatriots. Yes,
I'm sure he is sort of like the benchmark for Alcaraz.
This is it, yeah.
Yeah,
what a blow that would be if he turned out to, when he was growing up, Alcaraz, it wasn't Nadal that he was a fanboy of, it was actually one of the others. Imagine that. Yeah. But unlikely.
given the way he plays, the way he hustles around, yeah, I think it's fairly clear that it's probably Nadal. But yeah, I think in terms of predictions, I'm going to go for Alcaraz because he's like one of my favourite players, or younger players already. I think I'm going to go for Alcaraz in 3. What do you think? What's your prediction?
Rude in 3.
Okay, you think that slightly more experienced head may?
I'm always going to say the experience is an important aspect, and like I say, this is the game of tennis, less so with the men's game than the women's game, but regardless, this is the game of tennis where, that short-term form is really important. If you see a player having a really good week, chances are that tournament is theirs. Problem is whether they can consolidate that in the long run, which, like I say, that's a problem that makes players struggle a little bit more on the women's tour, but, like I say, it's very much the same on the men's tour as well, especially at the moment now that we've got this diminishing hierarchy of players.
Yeah, speaking of streaks, obviously on the women's side, we've got Iga Swiatek in another final. She hasn't,
quite right.
I think she's dropped a set yet in this tournament, and yeah, obviously she's in phenomenal form. She's going to be taking over the number 1 spot on Monday, but she is up against the one and only Naomi Osaka, well known to pretty much every tennis fan around. Obviously, we talked last week about, or the week before, about her sort of mental health kind of struggles and whatnot.
Yeah.
But it's nice to see her kind of getting back into the swing of things and putting a run together. I think this is her first final since the Aussie Open last year, so it's quite a long time now. And in their previous meeting, she did beat Swiatek. I think it was straight sets, but 2 close sets. I don't know if you've been following it much, but how do you kind of see this one going? And yeah, who do you think is going to win this one?
Find it impossible to tell. I will go with the data and the fact that the form is Swiatek's favour. But, Naomi Osaka, she's always going to be a threat. And I think it does depend on which version of herself turns up that day. Because if it's the best version of herself, she's quite unstoppable. So, like I say, and as you said, it's very, very good that she's gotten to this place. Showing these short-term successes will certainly reinforce as well mentally to start to lay down a little bit more of a long-term run.
I think I'll probably just lean the other way, just because maybe that Osaka has the mental edge based on previous matchups, but there's only been one, so it's hard to say. Like
it's not really much.
Logically, you would say Swiatek is going to win this one. He's playing like more aggressively now, kind of stepping into the baseline, which I love, of course. That's the kind of game that I very
much your game,
in complete like opposite to you, I suppose.
Well, no, I think the women's game is going a little more that way now. The courts are starting to slow down, and women just naturally, in terms of biomechanics, they can take that ball a little bit better when they step up through the court sometimes, because they've got a more solid base to hit through. So I think it's going to be entertaining to see how that develops, especially as courts slow down. But no, I'm excited to see a player like that doing really well on a women's tour.
Yeah, I think, and they both got pretty decent serves as well. So I mean, as per usual, it's gonna, one of the main things is whoever can serve better on the day and whoever can get on top of the point early is usually the person who comes out on top.
It's the consistency. It'll always come down to the consistency.
Yeah, so I think it's more of a 50-50 than people think.
I would say so. Yeah.
Yeah, Osaka's got a lot of experience, even though she's still quite young. But obviously, Swiatek's like in the best form of anyone at the moment. So that'd be interesting to see how that goes later on today. We've just heard recently that Daniil Medvedev, of course, he recently got to the number one spot before relinquishing it within like a couple of weeks. Such is the nature of the consistency that's required, even when Djokovic is not playing, to get to the number one. You still have to make at least the semis in pretty much every tournament, which shows how incredible like his performances have been. So obviously Medvedev is he has been there or thereabouts in a lot of these tournaments, but hasn't done quite enough to get that number one spot back. I think he needed to make at least the semis of the Miami Open, and now it's come out that he's been struggling a little bit with a hernia in the last kind of few tournaments. And he's decided to have an operation on that, which is going to rule him out for 1 to 2 months. So now it's kind of throwing into doubt his participation in the clay court season and specifically the French Open.
I think if he's a smart boy, he'll probably give up the clay court season. We know it's not his strongest game anyway. And I think that, if he trains right, he could really inflict some damage during the grass court season. Which, given his run last year, he could pick up some serious points to add to that tally and to challenge for the number one position again. Yeah,
I think he said previously that the clay courts are not exactly suited to him, or it's taken him a long time to adapt to them. He struggled a lot at the French Open. I think he was knocked out in the first round like a couple of times, and he had like a 6-match losing streak or whatever until last year. He made the quarters, I think, where he lost to Tsitsipas, who obviously ended up making the final. So obviously he made some adjustments there, but it's pretty brutal on the body, as we know. So probably it's a wise decision to skip that, and as you said, kind of gear up more towards Wimbledon, because given the game that he's got and the serve that he's got, he should be making big inroads at a tournament like.
Yeah, he should make a deep run. I think he'd be a shoo-in for winning Queens this year. Should all go well with his recovery.
Yeah, it'd be nice to see him play at Queens, actually. That'd be interesting to see how he gets on in the grass court season. But yes, this does bring up the wider question of kind of injuries in tennis. It seems like every week we get some kind of report of someone having to have like an operation or taking months or whatever out because of injury.
Oh, quite right.
And my general question would be, is it possible to be successful in tennis, i.e. get to the very top, win major tournaments, some Grand Slams, without having a major injury along the way, given the schedule and the physicality of the sport?
But this is, in itself, it's a two-pronged question, because what we need to talk about is not only players and their training habits, but we also need to talk about the scheduling of the tour. And the scheduling of the tour is something that's always been a little bit of a contentious issue. What you could do is, like the women's tour, to reduce the stress. You just reduce the length of the matches, for example, especially at Grand Slams. But then again, you miss out on some of that entertainment aspect. Again, that is its own conversation as well at Grand Slams about why there's a difference between men and women when it comes to the length of matches. But yeah, when it comes to I think how hard players are training, they're taught obviously that strength and conditioning is really important. The rest and recovery, the science of this has gone a long way in the past 10, 20 years. Hence why you're seeing players like Federer and Nadal making such great performances in their, in terms of sport, old age. In terms of real life, well, not to offend anyone, it's not old age at all. They're very young. But this is very much the point, the fact that science has taken us so far that we can have a much longer lasting career and also much better performances throughout a match is really a testament. Problem is the human body can only take so much. So the other element of that argument, the science aspect of it, is very much the genetic freakery. This is what I've talked about a million times before in the past. As a geneticist myself, I'm going to have to talk about it because it's what I love the most. But, you've got to have a bit of genetic freakery in order to avoid these injuries. Take Novak Djokovic, for example, like the way he moves, the agility he has, that would cause most individuals an injury. And yes, he works very hard, the strength and conditioning is great. But you see this across loads of other sports. Cristiano Ronaldo doing what he does at his age. He may not work as hard as he did when he was younger in football, but these things make a very big difference as to why performances can carry. So I think that injuries aren't inevitable, but I think that injuries are certainly it's a big risk because it is your life.
Yeah, I suppose the longer these players are playing as well now, it sort of increases the likelihood that you will pick up an injury at some point.
Quite right.
Even Djokovic has had he's had elbow injuries before. He had to change his service action because of that. So whether that was like a technical thing or a physical thing is hard to say. But yeah, like Federer's had. I mean, everyone thinks Federer. He's so rhythmical and smooth and elegant, but he's had quite a few knee injuries now. Obviously, he is getting older, so more likely. But he even 5-6 years ago, I think he had a knee injury, I think it was a knee injury. So even players that supposedly have these games that are very kind of easy on their body, it's not true, because this game, like tennis, is brutal in terms of the load and like the lateral forces that your body experiences. I'd actually love to do like a video or something with biomechanists to kind of look at the loads that go through players' bodies, because I'm sure
I think some of that has been done before. I'm not entirely sure where that footage would be, and that's certainly something we could always find and have a chat about. The biomechanics of tennis in its own episode would certainly be a very good topic. But as you say, those lateral forces are the biggest reason why tennis is probably one of the sports that you'll injure yourself most from. And this is why courts are slowing down, because the faster a court is, the harder that impact is going to be as you try and go for balls. So it's partially for the longevity of points, so that people get more of an entertainment factor rather than straight off winners from a return or just aces constantly. But part of it's the longevity of the players. And this is why we also see in a lot of tennis clubs, Astro and fake grass and sand and whatnot courts. It's a big push for this sort of thing. It may be more expensive, but concrete is really, really dangerous for your joints.
But the slowing down of the courts may ease the impact on your body, but then if the points are going on for longer, then is that really, like, does that just negate that?
Quite possibly.
Risk of injury. Yeah.
It's a really big debate in the tennis world, and I don't think that it's going to be solved. And I don't think that anything will probably really change at the moment, because we still have a lot of entertainment value, and you still have people who are able to make incredible runs on a tour in the men's side of things. So like I say, it's just the risk you bear to do what you love and play tennis or play any sport. You're going to have to risk those injuries.
I think the schedule is a major thing, because the thing you notice is when players, certainly when they get more experience, so they get older, they start managing their schedules a lot more. But then that obviously then impacts your ability to, well, at least in the rankings, make headway. Obviously, the main focus for the top players is I just want to be in prime shape for the Grand Slams and the end of season finals. But if you want to get to the number one, you've almost basically just got to play a ridiculous number of matches. As we saw with, if I bring up Murray again, because I know you love Murray, when he got to number one, the sheer number of matches and tournaments that he had to get there was ridiculous, and I'm sure that
he won everything,
exacerbated the injuries that he already had, and obviously and he obviously had to have the operation. But it's just crazy. You
have to play week in, week out, and you have to make deep runs, and the only way you're going to recover is if you don't make a deep run. If you don't make that deep run, you don't get number one.
Yeah, so that is whether that's right or not, that is almost the equation that you have to balance up as a tennis player. What do you prioritise, I suppose?
If I were to suggest a policy that might help improve this, and that would merely be the scheduling that a player is allowed to commit themselves to throughout a year. So they could choose which periods that they go through, where they're more intense, if they spread it out more. Like I say, these things should be individual choices for tennis players, but say you take the capacity of the tour, and where someone is playing 100% of capacity and they're breaking themselves to do it, like Murray very much did in his unstoppable year. I think maybe if you take it down to 80% and enforce that, make that a rule where you can only schedule yourself for 80% of the tour season, maybe that would help.
Yeah, but then you obviously get debates over which tournaments are you missing, because obviously all these tournaments want the main big players there.
No, they do.
For reasons. So then it's like you just can't win, because if one person's benefit is another person's loss. So yeah, it's finance kind of rules sport, not only tennis. So it's
unfortunately so. Yeah.
But yes, these players should have ownership and autonomy over the decisions that they make and what tournaments they decide to participate in. Especially if you're at the top level, you've got enough money to make whatever decisions you want, basically. So yeah, it's a tough one, isn't it? It's obviously advancements in sports science and recovery and all of that, but then schedules are increasingly more busy with obviously financial interests. It's kind of these things that are kind of in competition with each other, I suppose, and ultimately leading to players getting injuries. So I don't know whether you could conclusively say yes, it is almost inevitable that you'll get injured if you're trying to get to the top, but it certainly is a strong likelihood that would happen. I think even
big time.
Yeah. So obviously all we can do is wish Medvedev a speedy recovery, and hopefully this doesn't hinder him in the longer term, as we've seen with other injuries. Like I think Stan had what injury was? Did he have a knee injury as well? I seem to recall.
I think it was knee for Stan. Yeah.
That seems to have really impacted the back end of his career. So it's you just don't know how serious these injuries are going to be, sadly. Time for a bit of tennis trivia, and we still haven't changed the name, and we're probably not going to for a while at least.
Maybe we'll just rebrand with the same name, just like T20 cricket. We'll call it TT. Who knows?
Great, that's truly exciting stuff right there.
Yeah, there you go.
So here we go. Numero uno. So, when was the first French Open event held?
Ooh.
Was it 1885, 1891, 1895, or 1901?
Say all four again for me, please.
Certainly. 1885, 1891, 1895, and 1901.
See, I know it was late 19th century, which is 1800s, which always confuses me, the fact that that's the case. I'm going to go with B, 1891. I believe that was B anyway.
And it's correct.
Yes!
Good start, 1891, yes. I think Wimbledon was the first of the major Grand Slams.
Yeah,
I think it was
undoubtedly.
In 87, possibly. But yes, it was actually originally held in the Stade Francais, which is, I think, where the rugby team play now. And it was originally a men's inter-club competition. And interestingly enough, the first winner was a certain H. Briggs, who was actually a Briton who lived in Paris.
Wow, interesting.
Bet you didn't know that, and I'm sure that's changed your day completely. That with that new knowledge you've now.
It's just nice to know that Tim Henman is further down the pecking order of Brits who could potentially win a Grand Slam.
Yeah, and we don't even know the guy's first name. Doesn't even need a first
name. There you go.
H.
There you go.
Says it all. Question 2 then. So we're off to a good start. Nadal became the youngest player in men's tennis to win the singles career Golden Grand Slam in 2010, aged 24.
Okay.
Who is the only other player, or men's player, to achieve that same feat? Is it Andre Agassi, Roger Federer, Jimmy Connors, or Bjorn Borg?
So, in reverse order, that was Bjorn Borg, Jimmy Connors, you said Andre Agassi, and who was the other?
Federer was the other one.
Federer. I know Federer hasn't done it because that's one of the things that's eluded him. And you haven't mentioned Djokovic, so no, that's fine. So I am going to go with Andre Agassi.
And it's correct again. How did you manage to whittle that down? Was it a guess, or did you actually kind of?
I'll tell you what. I remember there being a fact that everyone kept saying when Federer finally overtook Andre Agassi's record at Wimbledon. I can't remember when this was. This was ages ago. When he finally won more Wimbledons than Agassi had. And I remember there being a fact where people went, well, he's not the GOAT yet because he's not done this. And I know that Nadal had done it, obviously, by this point. But I think he'd done it by that point anyway. But yeah, I remember Agassi having that over him. So I was pretty sure it was something like an incredible year. So I just had that in the back of my mind.
Very good. Yes. So, yeah, I think, Federer, he has won the doubles at the Olympics, but obviously he has the singles ones eluded him. He lost to...
Yes, I remember that, yeah.
Yep.
That was very much after he was defeated at Wimbledon on exactly the same court in the final. So it was a nice redemption story that year, obviously, as a Murray fan.
Yeah, thought I'd bring Murray back in again.
Well, obviously, yes.
Look at your face as I mention his name.
No.
All bubbly inside. Question number 3 then. So, in what year did prize money first become equal for men and women at a Grand Slam?
Ooh.
So your options are 1973, 1978, 1985, or 1990.
Oh, go for these again, please.
73, 78, 85, and 90.
So it's all pre-2000.
Yeah, it was actually, earlier than that.
You didn't tell me which Grand Slam it was, did you?
No, that's going to form part of my, nice little background story that
Okay. Oh, that's a tough one. I'll go with 73 because that's the only number I can seem to remember from the list you just read out. So barely got anything out of that. I just remember you saying that. So,
well, that is correct as well.
No way. Oh, okay.
You've literally.
I can't claim to have any knowledge there, but yes. It was my turn after you last week.
Yes. I used logic to get my answers. So
can I ask can I tell you which one I think it is? Which Grand Slam?
Go for it.
It's the US Open, isn't it?
It is indeed.
Yes.
Yeah. So
take that for the point.
It actually sort of came because of pressure from Billie Jean King and the kind of WTA that had been set up at the time, pushing for, equal rights or equal prize money. And at the time, it was actually $25,000 per each draw. So it shows you how far it's come. And
Yeah.
do you know what the last Grand Slam was that introduced equal prize money?
Oh, have they all done it now?
Yeah,
I thought it was still a problem. I'm going to say Wimbledon was the last one.
it was. And actually, it was only in 2007 that they offered equal prize money.
It's crazy.
Which is
it's
a little bit embarrassing.
Oh, very much so.
Yeah.
But I do understand why it was a sticking point, given the whole economy of tennis and of sport and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So, it's a discussion worth having, but undoubtedly, it's great that obviously that is a solution, that we have that solved now, because it was never a fair scenario.
It was the big wigs at Wimbledon who were saying like, "Oh, men's tennis offers more entertainment value, brings in more crowds, and all that stuff." So they resisted.
Some things matter more than the finance.
Yeah, shockingly, yes.
I wish we could tell Man United's representatives about that one, but
yeah, just tell the Glazers. I'm sure they'll listen to that one.
Yeah.
Okay, question 4. So we're on 3 out of 3 so far. You've already matched what I thought you were going to get. So.
How many did you get last week? Did you get 3?
Yeah,
or 4?
I got 3. Got 3. Yeah.
Got 3. So I could steal a win here.
No pressure. So, question 4. 11 women have saved match point before winning a Grand Slam in the Open era, but who has done it the most? And your options are Maria Sharapova, Martina Navratilova, Serena Williams, or Venus Williams.
Ooh. Oh.
So who saved match point before winning a Grand Slam the most? So it's not who saved the most match points. It's, who's won the most Grand Slams having saved a match point in that tournament.
Oh.
Does that make sense?
Yeah. So that's a tough question.
Like,
I haven't the foggiest here.
Yeah, so if you get, I don't know, you play like a quarter final, you save a match point, and then you go on to win it, that would be 1. And then you have to do that again in another tournament at some point.
I shall scratch my beard and hope that it will provide luck.
I'm sure it will. We've had a bit of luck so far, so. Or maybe it's running out.
Let's go with Martina Navratilova.
Get a... There it is, and you've been exposed for your lack of knowledge. So the answer actually was Serena Williams. Martina Navratilova has done it before. She did it on one occasion, saved match point in a Grand Slam.
Only one? Oh, that's sad.
You know how many times Serena Williams has done it?
In order to win a Grand Slam?
Mm-hmm.
So it's more times than she hasn't done it, isn't it?
I don't think so.
No? Oh, I was going to say it was like a really high number. I'll go something like 7.
No, it's not that high. It's 3.
Oh, okay. Oh, that's depressing.
You know how difficult it is to save a match point and then go on to win that tournament? That's
Nah, easy. Easy.
Speaking from experience, yeah.
Yeah.
So she did it in the Australian Open in 03 and 05, and she did it in Wimbledon 2009.
Brilliant.
Well, did Djokovic do it at one point? I'm sure Nadal's probably done it. Federer's probably done it.
Djokovic has done it against Federer most recently when they had that battle, that 5-set battle.
Was that a US Open or something? That
was a
Wimbledon one, yeah. But I think
the Wimbledon one
as well. Yeah,
maybe.
But it's not. Maybe it's not as hard as you think then. But
No. I'll be honest. Sometimes a match is very, very tight. You might be 10-9 up. You've got your match point on that final tie break. Like I say, it can always swing both ways when you get to that point. So,
yeah,
I think we'll be seeing more of them with the Grand Slam changes, the rule changes. We'll be seeing more of them.
Very good.
Hopefully,
bringing in topical things.
Oh yeah. Applying my knowledge.
Okay, here we go. So the last question. This is to take the highest score so far in any quiz. It's a bit of you could probably call it a slightly left field. Obviously, I couldn't do a grip question, but I've done a racket-based question.
Lovely.
So, which American tennis player popularized metal rackets by using the Wilson T2000?
Oh.
Jimmy Connors, John McEnroe, Pete Sampras, or Andre Agassi? So
I think I have an answer.
We're looking at kind of, this kind of era, mainly.
I think I have an answer. I'm either woefully wrong, or I actually have a bit of knowledge here. Is it Jimmy Connors?
It is.
Yes!
Well done. 4 out of 5, he's done it. 80%.
Done it!
Can't even...
Oh, that's a first! That is a first!
The screen's shaking, oh my god. Be out in the time tonight celebrating.
Yeah.
How did you know that? You actually come across that?
I do remember there being something about... I'll be honest, actually. I've been reading up a little bit on the history of Wilson recently, largely because... We've been tempted to some contracts at Bovey with Wilson for coaching and stuff like that as a result of a very nice company. I'm not going to mention their names yet, but when we're in partnership with them, I will be very happy to talk about them quite a bit more. But like I say, it's a good local partnership, which actually brings us closer to a worldwide tennis organisation. So, yeah, like I say, I think, I'd worked it out from having a bit of Wilson knowledge, but. No, I know that it was the 80s time that obviously that sort of racket was popularised. And like I say, not all of those answers were all 80s players, I don't think, were they?
No, a couple of... Well, yeah, Sampras is sort of leading more into the 90s.
Yeah.
But yeah, so it was actually a stainless steel racket, originally made by René Lacoste in 1953, and it was released by Wilson in 1967. And Connors used it for about 18 years, and he won the US Open in 82, I think, or 83. But you could probably say that Billie Jean King maybe was the first kind of major player to use it on the tour, but Connors was kind of the one that pushed it into more of the public consciousness. But that was interesting, him using that racket against the traditional wooden rackets, and then towards the end he was playing against players with graphite rackets.
Yeah.
So it sort of spanned the kind of two eras, so to speak, of tennis rackets, which I thought was quite interesting. But yeah, good knowledge. I thought you were going to say it came from your little history of tennis book that you've got.
No. No, I'm going to probably start using a blade soon, so it kind of partially should do that. So
we might be Blade Brothers.
Oh God! I'm immediately going to not now have one because I do not want that title.
we wear the same kit most of the time as well. So
do we?
We always turn up in like the same coloured T-shirt when we play. It was like
if we're playing as pairs, then that kind of makes sense,
Just wear the same kit, same tennis racket. That's how we're going to intimidate opponents.
Really, phase them out. Yeah.
Before we proceed.
Oh, it's your serve, Ben. I'm Merlin, actually.
The one with the beard. The guy who looks old. That one.
Oh, right. That's a cheap shot. That is a cheap shot. Right, well, I think that's podcast over.
Yeah, that's it. We're shutting down. It was a fun 5 episodes.
Yes, yeah.
Okay, so that wraps it up for this week. Well done to Merlin on getting solid 4 out of 5 there. If you have enjoyed the podcast, then please give it a follow if you're on Apple Podcasts or Spotify. And obviously if you're on YouTube, give it a like, subscribe and share, do all that good stuff if you feel like doing it. See you next time.